the first pick in the 2012 NBA Draft, the New Orleans Hornets select Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, John Wall, Blake Griffin, Derrick Rose.
Yeah, baby! Yeah, baby!
No! Not possible!
Oh, sorry, did I break your concentration?
The First Pick Podcast. Your number one pick for sports. Heard only on the firstpickblog.com. Now here are your hosts, Ben and Matt.
And welcome to the First Pick Podcast here, episode 7. It has been a long time since we've done the show. Too long. Some may say the fans have been clamoring, partner. I mean, it's been, as I welcome in Matt Fair, and again, we just got kind of caught up on winter break. Of course, us both being, college guys, we're got a little lazy over the break. But again, we and you have been talking, and we've been kind of figuring some things out, and we got a new format on the site, so it's going to be fun. I think the new year will be good to First Pick Blog.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. We definitely had a little bit of a lull there, but it's good to be back. Good to be talking with my good buddy Ben here, and I hope liking the new format on the site. Hopefully we can get some more stuff up soon.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna. We've been talking to our writers, and we're gonna be trying to get some new stuff. I know Matt and myself will be putting up some new stuff soon too. So, but let's get right into the show here. And again, for those who have not listened to First Pick Podcast, we just kind of go over some topics that have been going on. We got plenty to talk about. Of course, we're not going to really get into too much that happened a while ago over the break. We want to kind of stay talking about modern stuff here. We're not going to talk Manti Te'o. We're going to say nothing about Manti Te'o.
Who?
Exactly. So we're not going to get into that, but we still have plenty to talk about. We're going to play a little face-off later and finish up with some Super Bowl talk. But let's open things up right now. And for those, I'm sure baseball fans especially have read this story. Of course, Tim Elfrink of Miami New Times released an investigative report on Anthony Bosch of the company Biogenesis, a known PED distributor. And this new list of names includes guys like A-Rod, Gio Gonzalez, of course locally here for the Nats, Nelson Cruz. And I know me and you were texting earlier. And again, we didn't even mention the fact that we're on video here now. I guess I should have probably mentioned the fact. We're trying out this Google Plus broadcast thing. We're going to see how it works out. We're going to see what people like. But I think we're definitely going to put up this show up there. But again, with the topic at hand, with the PADs, and me and you were talking about this, and do people even really care anymore about these steroids stories? I know we were kind of going back and forth on it, but people just don't really seem as an uproar about this story compared to, Ryan Braun when that was going on, or Barry Bonds, even if you're going way back. What are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, recently there's just been so many different stories, and I feel like people are just conditioned to accept it now. I mean, when they first started coming out with all the different stories of the McGuires and the Bonds and the Sosas in the 90s just completely blowing the stat sheet up, people were in an uproar because it never happened like that before. And now that we've had probably a marquee athlete every single year someone come out with a different report about them, I just feel like people are used to it now. And especially now when you've had some guys that have already been listed on there, like A-Rod, it's not really surprising anymore.
Yeah, but it definitely hits a little home here, of course, with Gio. And I know, his implication a lot more if it's just he's tied to this. And I know his dad was tied to this guy too, but which was kind of strange reading that. But for Gio, who was kind of a guy who had a breakout year this year, and there's definitely some questions. But again, for us Nats fans, this was a little interesting because I know you and me both haven't really we've seen these names come to light for involving steroids, but these haven't really been our guys, and now we finally have one of our guys in the spotlight.
Yeah, no, it was kind of weird. That was actually one of the first texts I got this morning. Was my little ESPN breaking news thing, and I saw that, and I didn't know what to say initially, but for me, it's kind of hard to have a different opinion on the guy. After what he brought to the team last year. I mean, 21 wins, a near Cy Young performance, and he's just great for the organization. He loves being in DC, and he loves the fans. He's really talkative, and he's really competitive. And I feel like everyone genuinely likes the guy, and it's going to be hard for people to go against that. It's not like he's a different person because he potentially used performance-enhancing drugs. It's just that maybe his performance on the field wasn't what we expected it to be.
Yeah, and for me, again, we both are in agreement on this, and when it comes to Gio, who we really respect after the way he battled for this team last year, he's going to be involved in this team this year as well. And but it is I was a little surprised to see that wasn't really a guy who I necessarily would even think about being tied to PEDs. I mean, Nelson Cruz and A-Rod are two guys that, yeah, I would believe it. I would believe it if Nelson Cruz took PEDs. I mean, that's just, and there were other names involved in this too. But again, when it comes down to do we really care? Is this really a story at this day and age? I mean, 10 years ago, yeah. But here, 2013, when baseball fans, we've already seen this story play out almost every single season. Does it really matter anymore? And that's going to be, and again, more details are probably going to come out, and we'll talk about those as we go on. But let's move on topics. We got 4 topics to cover here in segment 1. Let's go over to the NBA, and Rajon Rondo, of course, out for the rest of this season, and probably will miss a chunk of next year with a torn ACL. And really, there's 2 camps for this Rondo situation. There's been articles written for both sides. Do the Celtics try to find a new point guard to lead the team or stick with the guys they already have? That's one camp. Or do they blow things up, send out Paul Pierce, send out Kevin Garnett, see what you can get, and start fresh? Because those guys only have a few years left anyways. And I'd like to get your opinion, then I'll say mine. But this is a pretty crazy story. And for basketball fans, I know, even though I'm not a Celtics fan, I was pretty upset when I saw that Rondo was going to be out. He's one of my favorite guys to watch.
Yeah, not only is he one of my favorite guys, he was my first-round fantasy pick, so I was kind of upset about that. But
you're dominating the fantasy league right now. I just lost to you because apparently one of the days there was 3 games going on. None of my guys were playing 8 of yours. So continue. You can continue.
But anyway, before I get into the Celtics, I just want to talk about how terrible these past few months have been for exciting athletes. And we got RG3 down with an ACL. We lost Rose last year. Rubio came out last season. There's tons of guys that have just been tearing up their knees, and it's really disappointing, especially the ones that you like to see on the field performing. They're just exciting to watch. But obviously, like you said, there's 2 different camps. I was one of the people that were saying last season they should have traded Pierce or KG or tried to start the team over. But they had that run late in the season and almost ended up going to the finals. So I feel like they felt like going into this season that they had a lot better of a team than they actually did. And the people that they added to the roster, the Jason Terry and Courtney Lee, are guys that really, really don't complement Rondo that well. And Courtney Lee especially, I mean, Jason Terry is a 6-man type of player, but Courtney Lee especially is a guy that only thrives when he has the ball in his hand. And Rondo, as a point guard, is a triple-double threat mainly because he can dish the ball off to people, which means he has to have the ball as well. So I feel like him being off the team might give them more balance, and they got Avery Bradley back. Jeff Green's not playing great, but he's been playing better as of late. So I don't think that necessarily they need to blow up the roster. I mean, they should have done it last year, I mean, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'd agree with you there. And I'd also another point I'd like to make is the fact that I think having Rondo on the court makes guys like Pierce and Garnett better. I mean, he makes everybody better. But at the same time, he's been able to get the ball to those 2 guys especially where I don't think too many other point guards can in those types of situations. And so for those 2 guys, now suddenly they've lost the guy who's been the best at getting them the ball. And now you got to kind of rebuild. I mean, you mentioned, guys like Jason Terry, who's kind of underachieved this year a little bit, and then, Avery Bradley. I believe Mikel Petrus is still on the roster, I think. I don't know. They have some other guards there, but, again, I'm not exactly for blowing it up entirely. Because I still think Pierce has a few years left in him. I think Garnett, with the way that guy, I mean, just the way he's built athletically, I think he might have a few years left. I'd say 3 max, 2 minimum, if that even makes any sense. But but anyways, I just don't think you blow it up this year. I don't think you just give up everything. Now the Celtics can still limp into the playoffs here. They're at the 8th seed right now. I think they might hang around at that 7-8 spot. But then you look at, they're going to play Miami or New York in the playoffs if things stay the way they are, and they'll probably, I don't know, this could be Boston again. We think blow it up, and then they come into the playoffs, they pull out a couple rounds of victories, and then next thing you know, we're saying, all right, we got to wait another year before they blow it up. But I think you and I are in agreement here. Stay the course for now. But I think, hey, if next year comes along, Rondo's not going to probably start the season, things are going bad, by the time the All-Star break hits next year, we could be having the same conversation, but it might be a little more serious. It might be a real legitimate chance to blow it up, but we'll see. Let's move on to the NFL. Where will these two guys be next season? Tim Tebow and Alex Smith, and there's definitely a lot of talk surrounding both of them. We'll talk about this quick because we got one more topic before we finish segment 1. Let's start not with Tim Tebow. Let's start with Alex Smith, who lost his starting job to Colin Kaepernick after suffering the concussions. And this has kind of been a weird season for Alex Smith because, yeah, you lost your job. Kaepernick suddenly takes the reins, and he takes the team to the Super Bowl. Is Alex Smith going to stay? Is he going to be a backup quarterback for the 49ers, or is he going to go someplace like New York or somewhere like that? What do you think?
I absolutely think he's not going to be on the 49ers roster next season. I think his contract might be up. I'm not positive on that, but there's absolutely no way he stays on this team. There was a lot of murmurs about this being a redemption season for him, and he was going to put up great numbers, but that concussion just completely derailed everything. And he's proven that he can play quarterback in the NFL. I wouldn't put him in the elite category just quite yet, but he's proven he can play quarterback. I think there's a lot of teams that would want his services. There's teams like New York who have a terrible quarterback situation. I will put it out there that Mark Sanchez has won road playoff games before. So I feel like that has to go somewhere for the Jets. But I feel like a team like Arizona would be a perfect fit for him. They have Larry Fitzgerald and Michael Floyd, and they have a lot of weapons, and they do have a somewhat of a run game. They could definitely use a quarterback in Alex Smith. Teams like Jacksonville, who basically were completely shot at the quarterback position last season, definitely could use a quarterback like Alex Smith. There's a lot of candidates for his services.
So we're in agreement that he's not going to stay in San Francisco.
Yeah.
All right, and I agree with you too. I think honestly he's clearly a better option than Mark Sanchez. So I think, but then again, you did say, you have to admit, Sanchez. And everyone always points to his numbers have improved, but this has just been a weird career for Alex Smith. San Francisco didn't even like him; those fans didn't even like him for the first, half of his career. And then he kind of started winning some football games, and then they pretended that they liked him. And now that Colin Kaepernick, the new kid on the block, has come in and led them to the Super Bowl, now they don't like Alex Smith anymore. They don't want him anymore. You got to feel for the guy, but at the same time, I think there's better situations for him. I agree. I think either New York or maybe Arizona. I agree. I think those are the two best options for Alex Smith moving forward. And then last, Tim Tebow. It's been failed. It's been a disaster in New York. Where does he go? Also, does he stay a quarterback? Or does he maybe switch positions? It's been talked. They've asked him, what do you think here? We'll finish up the segment 1. What are your thoughts on Tim Tebow?
I don't think that people should value him the way that they do. I don't know if there's another position he could play, but I just don't feel like he should be an NFL quarterback. He was a great college player because of the system that he ran with Urban Meyer. And he's a great competitor. He's obviously a great person. I just don't think he's a good quarterback. And there's a lot of people that will point to the Denver game, the Denver-Pittsburgh game last season where he won on the first play in overtime. But I'm just not impressed by anything he does. And if you have a player that can only play in one system, then he's most likely should not be in the NFL because most of the elite quarterbacks, or even the quarterbacks that are average, aren't built for one specific system. Like, they don't have to be a wildcat quarterback. Like, they don't have to be a running quarterback. They know how to throw the ball, and they maybe can run also. But if you have a quarterback that is specialized, I don't see the point.
Yeah, he's definitely been one of those names that there's a lot of what ifs. I mean, what if he didn't go to New York this year? Then again, where else would he have ended up? I mean, he wouldn't have. I mean, Peyton was clearly having the reins in Denver, so we'll see, and we'll definitely get more into this in future podcasts. But we're going to take our break here at the end of segment 1. When we come back, we're going to be playing a little bit of face-off. So that's coming up next. Again, you're listening to the First Pick Podcast on thefirstpickblog.com. And welcome back to the First Pick Podcast. Again, it's been a while, but we're right back into the swing of things here. Ben Simpson, of course, myself, and Matt Fair. And we'll be bringing you some more of these, podcasts. We're gonna try for once a week, maybe eventually end up to twice a week. We're also gonna try to get more guests on the show as well. So we're trying to have more of our writers jump on, but because maybe you'll get sick of us. I sure hope not. But let's move on to segment 2 here, where we're gonna play a little face-off. So we got a couple different matchups here moving forward. Let's start right into it. Let's get right into the NBA again. Who would you take right now as I would say title contender, honestly? Miami, at this point in the season, we're not talking about down the road, this exact point in the season, if the regular season ended right now, these two teams made it all the way to the NBA championship tomorrow. Let's say the championship started tomorrow. Miami or OKC, who do you take?
I'm taking Oklahoma City, man. Kevin Durant is playing out of his mind right now. He's just on a different level from everyone else. I think he's going to take home the MVP. They've responded really well to the James Harden trade, and Miami just looks disinterested right now. I don't know how else you can describe it.
I think that's a perfect way to describe it, because I don't think they are interested. This is the regular season. Miami doesn't care about the regular season for some reason. And again, you kind of understand that they're about winning titles. This is what the team was constructed for. This is what they do. But at the same time, they're not the best team in the NBA right now. I would say, I know ESPN has power rankings, has them around 4 or 5, and I would tend to agree with that. And I agree with you. I think OKC, I think Kevin Durant is, again, doing what Kevin Durant, and I tell you what, he's going to go down as one of the best players in history. Knock on wood, as long as he stays healthy. But at the same time, and you mentioned the James Harden deal, people were in such kind of disarray. I mean, they can't win without Harden, but you got Kevin Martin who's playing some good minutes. You've got other guys stepping up. Ibaka's turned into quite a jump.
Yeah, how about
Ibaka? He's playing out of his mind, honestly.
Exactly.
So OKC, I think, is the best team in the NBA right now, and I think they're going to possibly win a title. And I think even going down the road, we could see an OKC Miami championship again. You got to think, right? I mean, Kevin Durant's redemption after what happened last year, it's definitely possible.
I can absolutely see it. I mean, there's really no other team in the Eastern Conference that can challenge Miami in a 7-game series. I'm sorry. I mean, there's the Clippers and San Antonio being in the Western Conference are teams that definitely could challenge them in the finals, but obviously because they're in the Western Conference, I don't think anyone's challenging Miami going forward.
And even when it comes to Eastern Conference Finals, I don't really see many teams in the East. I mean, sure, the Knicks, have been red hot, but they don't play a whole lot of defense. It's going to be high-scoring games, gunning, and Knicks, besides Melo and J.R. Smith, don't have a whole lot of scoring there. They have different role guys who can step in. I mean, Indiana, defensive team, they may be able to try to shut them down. Chicago as well. We'll see when D. Rose comes back. But in the East, I don't see any teams that can beat Miami. I think the West, though, definitely is going to put up a fight.
Definitely. I mean, the Spurs have looked really impressive. I feel like they're like one or two young players away from being perennial title contenders, but they won't be able to go past OKC in 7 games. I'm sorry.
Yep.
And we don't know what's up with Chris Paul's knee either, so we don't know how the Clippers are going to finish.
Yeah, hopefully he ends up okay. But yeah, I agree with you. It's been a little interesting to see him lately not playing. But let's move on to some baseball again. And again, we'll try to be unbiased here. Of course, we're Nats fans, of course, so we're going to be leaning a little their way. But who are you more impressed by, the new look Braves or the new look Nats heading into this season?
I'll tell you what, I'm probably the happiest person on the East Coast that Martin Prado's out of our division. I can't, like, that guy killed us last year. And I love seeing brothers on the same team. I've always been fans of the Upton brothers. Unfortunately, they're on the team that I hate the second most besides the Yankees. But on paper, because obviously there's a lot of things that happen in throughout the duration of a season, on paper the Nationals are a better team, basically in every aspect. They have a stronger rotation. Their bullpen is equal, if not stronger, than the Braves. Craig Kimbrell and whoever will be closing for the Nats are probably equal. I like Storin to close it towards the end of the season, but from top to bottom, the Nationals lineup is definitely a better look than the Braves. And BJ Upton has never been consistent on the base paths. I'm sorry. I don't see how they got better defensively, but they're not re-signing Michael Bourne, who was statistically the best outfielder in the league last year, and they just traded away their best hitter and like their second favorite player besides Chipper Jones, who just retired. Like, I don't see how the Braves got significantly better from the trade.
Yep, and I think. First of all, I think it's fun to see the two brothers on the team together. I mean, I'm not a Braves fan, but I think that is pretty funny to me. And I think they are two terrific players. But I agree, BJ kind of has underachieved throughout his career. But and again, even though I'm a Nats fan, bless you there, partner. But even though I'm a Nats fan, I still have to lean the Nats away when it comes to the new look Nats. I think they've really improved. It's not even that they've improved that much because they kept a lot of the same guys, and that's how they improved. They improved by, this clearly was a lineup that worked last year, but now you have, and so you have a Dan Herron now on the pitching staff. You've got hopefully a year full of Strasburg on the hill. This pitching rotation is just flat out dirty. And then you have, the lineup that's going to be returning, and they'll hopefully all be healthy as well. So I honestly think the Nats could contend again. And I think after what they experienced in the playoffs last year, that's going to help them heading into this year. So we both agree, new look Nats. All right, again, we're not getting into our Super Bowl pick yet, but we're going to get into our Harbaugh pick, I guess. They love using that word on ESPN now. But who do you take? I guess we'll say who would you? Let's do who would you rather play for, John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh?
See, as a former football player, it's really tough for me to decide between this because they're both great player coaches. I mean, John is more of a friendly, kind of. He relates more with his personnel. He talks a lot less about football and more about how the players are going. He forms more of a personal relationship with the players, which is obviously a good thing. But Jim is more of like a no-nonsense type of hard-nosed, all about defense. He wants to do whatever it takes to win a game. And for both coaches, you would want to play for them if you were an NFL player. But for me personally, I would probably take John just because he can relate a lot more with the players and he's a lot more friendly. I love watching his interviews with the media. He's just a great guy, and that family's got to be being ecstatic right now.
I know we talk about the Upton family, of course, being excited, but the Harbaugh family.
Yeah,
they're ecstatic for this. I bet it's pretty hard for the parents to decide who. They're of course not going to root for one team over the other. But and I'm actually going to go the other way on this one. And I agree, John Harbaugh, one of the classiest coaches you'll see. And again, I think honestly he's one of the best player coaches in the league. But I think Jim Harbaugh also has to be up there for one of the best player coaches. Not. One, because he's kind of crazy. He's a little crazy of a guy. I mean, you see, and I just love how much he cares about his football team and how much he cares about the game of football in general. I think you will not find a more intense at times, but a guy who just loves the game of football, and every single member of his team he will go and battle for. Heck, he'd probably fight an entire other team if somebody did something bad to one of his guys. So and again, I think having a coach like that, while I never played football personally, I think if I did, I would love to play for a guy like Jim Harbaugh, even though he is definitely a little crazy. But at the same time, even though he's crazy, I think he's good crazy, if there's such a thing. Let's move on to college basketball. We got our last three matchups here before we end segment 2. Now, there's been a couple different polls I've been looking at here for rankings for college basketball. Some of them have Kansas at number 1. Some of them have Michigan at number 1. I believe the main one has Michigan at number 1. But who do you think is the number 1 team in college basketball between those two teams? KU, who I know you hate, or U of M, who I hate?
Yeah, this is a tough discussion for both of us. But if they're playing each other if they play each other in national championship, or even just at a neutral location, just for one game, I think that KU is definitely, from top to bottom, more of a competitive team than Michigan. They rebound a lot better. They're definitely longer down low in the baseline, and I just think Bill Self coaches better than anyone else that's in Division I right now. I think he's, honestly, and it pains me to say, I think he's going to be Coach of the Year this year. And like I said, they have been out rebounding teams. They're a lot more physical, and Michigan's a lot more of a fast break kind of slash and kick team, and that can only get you so far. And I love some of the guys they have. Trey Burke is one of my favorite players, and Hardaway is also another guy that's just great. And I know you don't want to talk about Michigan like that, but
yeah. I mean, I'll just jump in here for a second. And again, I'm a Michigan State guy, so of course I'm bred. My dad, Michigan State guy. I'm bred to hate U of M. I do have family that did go to our Wolverines as well, but I agree with you. I think Kansas. I would take Kansas over Michigan, and here's why. I don't think Michigan matches up well underneath. I don't think they have the post game. They have the shooting game. You mentioned Trey Burke. They got Tim Hardaway Jr. They have these guys that can shoot the basketball. And again, as you said, that will take you so far. As soon as one of those games happens where none of these guys are hitting their shots, I mean, look what happened with Minnesota. That was a hard-fought game. And they, again, Minnesota's a very good team this year. Don't get me wrong. They beat Michigan State. But at the same time, I just don't think that Michigan can just match up. If they face a team when we get to the tourney time that has the post game, I don't think Michigan. That will be the one weakness I would point at Michigan. I think that's, and KU's got it. They have the post game. They have the outside game. I'm taking KU. Again, if you haven't listened to the show before, me and Matt love to agree with each other. We agree a lot. We got our last two matchups here. Of course, hockey season has started, and we do want to talk about some hockey. We'll probably move that later on in the show because we are glad the season's back, even though our teams are a little underachieving right now, the Caps and the Wings. But the top two of the top teams in the league right now, the Boston Bruins, the Chicago Blackhawks. Again, this is a simple, who do you think's better, Chicago or Boston? Take your pick.
I'm going to take Chicago. I think that they're playing a lot better on the power play. They've been a lot more efficient than a lot of other teams. And, I mean, it's hard to get going right off the bat. I mean, these guys are pretty much right off their couches if they weren't playing overseas. And the teams that get off to the quickest start are usually going to be the most successful. I mean, Boston hasn't lost a game. I know there's a couple other teams like San Jose. New Jersey hasn't lost either. Oh, wait, no, I think they lost. They beat the Caps. And like I said, I just think Chicago's been a lot more efficient. They've got some younger guys on their back lines, and I think that Chicago's a better team right now.
And again, I will agree with you again. Chicago, I think, honestly, is the better team at this point. I think Boston, they're going to struggle a little bit as the weeks go on, but again, I think me and you are just both so happy to have hockey back again. Hockey, it's maybe not my number one sport that I love to watch, but it's definitely up there. And too bad the Red Wings, of course, with Lindstrom's retirement, they've been struggling a little bit. And the Caps have had their follies too. But again, I think we're just both overall just happy to have hockey back. We're gonna break right now, and when we come back, we're gonna have our last little debate here between who would we rather take, Kyrie Irving or Damian Lillard. Check that out next. Again, you're listening to First Pick Podcast here on the firstpickblog.com. And welcome back to the First Pick Podcast here, episode number 7. We're going to get these things rolling out again every single week. Audio and hopefully the video version as well. All right, this was the last subject. We were trying to fit this in. We didn't have enough time to fit this into our second segment. But we were playing Who Would You Rather Take here, Kyrie Irving or Damian Lillard. Of course, the fantastic rookie playing in Portland. Lillard, Kyrie Irving, one of the most fun players to watch in the world, playing for an underachieving Cavs team. These are two fantastic basketball players, partner. Who do you take? Kyrie or Damian?
The league is in great hands, and we got a lot of young guys that I love to watch, and I can't wait to see them develop. But I'm starting to believe that Kyrie's not going to be durable throughout his career. I'm starting to have questions about how his legs are going to hold up. I mean, he had that toe injury at Duke, and that derailed his entire season. But I'm definitely leaning more towards Lillard here. He plays more, I won't say with a reckless abandon, but he knows how to use his body, and his team doesn't rely on him as much as Kyrie does, and that's a poisonous situation when the team has to rely on Kyrie to score and distribute the basketball. And they have a perfect balance with Lillard and Aldridge and the other guys that they have. I know Nicholas Batum has been having a great season for the Blazers. So I'm going to take Lillard in this situation. I know he's a rookie, and there's a lot of stuff that can happen, but right now I'm taking Lillard.
I think that's fair. I think, as you said, Portland clearly has better pieces around him right now. But I think also you look at Cleveland, clearly, they're towards the bottom of the league. They could end up with an okay draft pick. And then next thing you know, but I definitely know Kyrie, he has some talent around him right now. But at the same time, I agree with you. The load is really on his shoulders for this Cleveland team, and that's got to take a toll. I mean, now LeBron was an athletic freak, so he was not as susceptible to injury as a guy like Kyrie Irving. But at the same time, again, not just because they're both in Cleveland, but it was kind of a similar role. I mean, LeBron had to lead that team. Now, Kyrie's not going to be leading Cleveland necessarily, deep into the playoffs anytime soon. But it's got to take a toll on him, as you mentioned, both physically and eventually mentally, too, if Cleveland still is finishing at the bottom of the league. But both these guys just have motors that are unbelievable. And I guess if I had to pick, I'd have to go with Damian Lillard, too. I mean, honestly, I love his game. He's a great distributor of the basketball. He's got great pieces around him. Portland's finally a fun team to watch. It's been a while since Portland's been really fun to watch. Maybe the Jail Blazers days, but I think now
early 2000s.
Exactly. So I think now Portland one of the most fun teams to watch, namely because of Damian Lillard, who's really, honestly, he's won the respect of guys like Kobe, of LeBron. They all talk about him. You hear quotes from them all the time about how good this kid is. So we both say Damian Lillard. All right, time to finally get into some Super Bowl talk. You knew it had to come. Of course, the big game coming this Sunday, Ravens, 49ers. We're going to try to have a poll up on our site so you guys can make your picks. We'll see where you guys are leaning. But let's get right into some kind of the keys to the game. And I went on my buddy's radio show last week I wish I remembered the name so I could promote it, because he promotes us. But I believe it's Showtime. Mike Cerrone. It's Showtime on Radford Radio there. And he had me and another guy kind of talk back and forth about this game and defend each team. And so let's get into some kind of keys to the game for both sides. And, again, let's start with the Ravens here, who honestly in this area, of course, people are rooting for them. I think even though because we're so close to Baltimore compared to San Francisco. What do the Ravens need to do to win this Super Bowl?
For me, I think they have to play really well on special teams. They were the best team in the league in terms of, I think, overall special teams play, and they have a lot. They have great returners. They have a great punter. They know how to use the short game to help their defense and their offense. And I think that's going to be huge for them going into this game. And another thing I would like to point out for them is the play of Joe Flacco is going to completely determine how they play in this game. I think their defense will be able to hang in there depending on how long the 49ers hold on to the ball. But Joe Flacco needs to have an extraordinary game if they want to have a good shot at winning.
This is going to be a quarterback game. This is,
Yeah.
I mean, again, you talk about plenty of keys. You talk about special teams. You're going to talk about defense, and those are completely viable things to talk about, and I've talked about them too. But I think when it comes down to it, it's a quarterback battle. It's Kaepernick and Flacco, because for a guy like Joe Flacco, who for some reason people just don't respect, I guess, in the quarterback, he's finally earned some respect here over the past 2 seasons. But at the same time, this is probably the biggest game. Of course, obviously, it's a Super Bowl. You got to say it's the biggest game of his career. But I think not only because of it's the Super Bowl, but because I think a win here could finally put him in the conversation of, you know, being an elite quarterback. I mean, Eli Manning, of course, screaming for his own praise after, you know, winning the Super Bowl for the Giants, and still people wouldn't put him in the conversation. But for Joe Flacco, I think if he has to have a good game, otherwise the Ravens are not going to win this one, I think. And then Kaepernick on the other side, you got to love what you've seen from him this year. Again, we've gotten to win his RG3. It's kind of a similar with Kaepernick. Don't you agree his run game and his passing game is going to affect this football game?
Yeah, no, the Ravens had a lot of trouble stopping teams this season that were run heavy, like the Redskins specifically. They had a lot of trouble stopping the read option. Morris ran for 129 on them, and they're a good solid defense. But when they're on the field for a long time, like when teams are running the ball all over them, it's hard for them to stop them from scoring. And I feel like if the 49ers can maintain a stronghold of possession, it's going to be really hard for the Ravens to get anything going on offense, especially with that defense the Niners have.
Yeah, I mean, of course, 49ers defense gets a lot of praise, but I think Baltimore clearly has a good deal of well, of course, when Ray Lewis, we have to mention him at least 500 times before the Super Bowl game. And again, of course, I'm a Ray Lewis guy, but at the same time, all right, I've had enough, especially with this new topic that came out today about him possibly using something.
I told you.
Yeah, to come back. I mean, guys just don't come back from that quickly. But we'll maybe save that for the very end of the show. We'll get into more on that. But let's get into predictions here. Who are you taking in this one? And I've been waffling back and forth between these two teams because I think, honestly, this could be a very good game. It's either going to be, for me, I think it's either going to be real low-scoring defensive game or it could be a shootout. And I'm going, I believe I gave the same prediction on the other show. I'm trying to think. I actually went 49ers, 27-21 is my score prediction. You don't have to necessarily give a score prediction if you want, but that was mine, 27-21 49ers. What do you got?
I'm also going to take 49ers here. I think that they win by a field goal, 22-19. And I think that this is going to be a big game for David Akers and Justin Tucker, the two kickers for the two teams playing. I think that they're going to have great games kicking the football.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Akers, who I know you might have an article coming out on him eventually here soon.
Yes, I will.
Soon, and we'll definitely have plenty of our NFL guys writing about the Super Bowl. Hopefully, definitely we'll try later this week. But again, we're both going 49ers here. If you disagree with us, shoot us either an email at firstbigblog for gmail.com. Leave a comment on our site. We'll definitely follow us on Twitter at firstpickblog, on Facebook, facebook.com/thefirstpickblog. Just give us your thoughts on this game, because obviously it's the biggest game of the year. And also, I'm pretty excited about Beyonce this year. I think we're gonna have a good music performance here. I did not like Black Eyed Peas for the years they did it. I think honestly, this could be a pretty good one. You got to think, right?
Yeah, no, for the first time they're going with someone that's kind of younger since the Janet Jackson thing happened. Like, it's going to be a pretty good performance. I'm excited about it. Hopefully she incorporates her baby or something.
Yeah, really.
I'm hoping.
I hope Jay-Z is Jay-Z going to make an appearance?
Yeah.
I think that
I hope so.
Cool. But all right, we're going to take our final break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap the show up. Some NBA All-Star Weekend talk, some Wizards talk, and then we'll finish up with a little Ray Lewis talk. Again, you've been listening to the First Pick Podcast here on the firstpickblog.com. And welcome back to the First Pick Podcast here, episode number 7. Let's get into our wrap-up here, Matt. And definitely one of the last points we want to go over is NBA All-Star Weekend. Of course, the All-Star lineups have been announced, and you know, there's always going to be controversy about guys who get on, guys that should have gotten on. Again, first of all, do you care about the starting lineups at all? I mean, do you really care? You know, they have Dwight in there, who might not necessarily deserve it, but at the same time, do starting lineups matter to you, or is it really more about being on the roster?
I definitely think it's more about being on the roster. I'm kind of disappointed in that they got rid of the center position and kind of did the forward center and like guard forward kind of thing. But I definitely think that it comes down to just being selected. That's such an honor considering how many guys play in the league. I mean, obviously there's not that many, but to make it that far and then to be considered one of the better players in a particular season is definitely a huge honor. And you get to play in the game. That's ultimately what it comes down to.
And you know, one of the names, there's been a few names being snubbed. Of course, Stephen Curry and I believe Brook Lopez, the two guys that people are talking about the most. And again, you know, I don't really like going after the fact and really arguing for guys. I mean, they didn't get in. There's nothing we can do and pending an injury. I mean, to get these guys in. I'm not really a big fan. I know Jeff Van Gundy was really animate on the broadcast. Also, Van Gundy talking about that they need to expand the rosters and stuff. And I don't know. Honestly, are you fine with the way it is right now? I mean, again, there's going to be guys that aren't going to get on the list. It's going to happen every single year. Are you really that upset that Stephen Curry's not on the lineup?
Absolutely not. He has such a long career ahead of him. How many more All-Star games is Kevin Garnett going to make? Like one or two, however many seasons he's got left in him. He's got plenty of time to make there's no reason to expand it. I mean, they play these guys with such like distributed minutes. Like they distribute it so evenly that it doesn't even make a difference. Like
yeah,
I said,
do you want guys to have to play even less minutes because they have bigger rosters now? I mean, do you want Steph Curry to come into the game and play 4 or 5 minutes in an All-Star game? No.
This is what the fans wanted. These are the players the fans wanted to have. I mean, it's a popular vote, and this is what happened. Like, what else do you want to do? You can't add, 4 more players.
Well, they clearly want us to start the electoral college of the NBA votes, and they want to, do it by state. I don't really know. I mean, I think honestly the system's fine for now. If I really find a flaw, no one really cares. But and then NBA All-Star Weekend in general. Are you fine with the way that it is? Is there anything you'd like to change about NBA All-Star Weekend? Anything you want to add, take away? What do you like about this?
The only thing I don't like is the way the slam dunk contest has evolved. It's more of a media event. There's all these interviews, and Kenny Smith just dominates it for absolutely no reason. And it should be the funnest event of the entire weekend, other than the game, of course. But it's just terrible now. I can't even watch it. And I love the skills competition is always fun because the guys that are involved in it are some of my favorite players, and three-point competition, obviously. But the dunk competition used to be the highlight event of the entire weekend, and now it's just I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a reality
It's different.
show.
It's so different now. I mean,
yeah.
You mentioned a lot of Kenny Smith in the All-Star Week, and then they took away the judges having the votes and stuff, or the numbers. I didn't like that move, first of all. I mean, giving the fans the opportunity, it's going to turn into a popularity contest rather than the dunks. I know when JaVale lost, I honestly thought that was a travesty. I thought he should have beaten Blake Griffin. I think JaVale McGee had the most creative dunks that year. But I agree with you. I mean, the slam dunk contest is kind of the pinnacle of the weekend. It's the final event. It's the most important event, I think, and it's a most fun event, as you said. So again, take away some of the the fanfare, and they always wait so long to put it on too. It ends up being like so much later than it's technically scheduled to. Remember that weird year where they had the horse game scheduled before the slam dunk contest, and that I believe it was guys. There was like a couple random NBA players that were supposed to be playing this horse game, and then they kept going long. And and then they like rushed him at the end. They've done some
it's
weird
embarrassing.
things. Yeah, it is embarrassing. But again, when it comes down to 3-point contest, love it. Slam dunk contest, love it. The game, of course, itself. The rookie sophomore challenge too.
Oh yeah,
that's
can't forget that. And the celebrity game is always fun too.
Yes.
I love the celebrity game.
Hopefully they get some good ones. Enough for the cast of Jersey Shore. They seem to get those guys every year. And the Beebs. Get the Beebs out of the celebrity game. I don't want to see that guy. But again, so we're both in agreement. We love the NBA All-Star Week. I really can't wait for it. And let's kind of finish up things here with a little Wizards talk. Again, we're local. We're going to talk about the Washington Wizards. If you don't like it, you can stop listening. But some improvement. There's been some improvement in this team of late. We got John Wall back. Suddenly, things are clicking more. There was a tough loss to Sacramento last night. Honestly, I thought they had that basketball game. 3 quarters they were leading, and then they lose it at the end. But
that was tough.
We finally get to see the Wizards team that we wanted to. This is the lineup. These are the guys. Of course, when Wall finally, in that starting lineup, him and Beal. We got, Ariza. Of course, they've had Martell in there at small forward, and Nene and Okafor underneath. These are the guys that could get the Wizards, if they had a full season of them. I think, honestly, they could sneak themselves into the playoffs. I don't think this year, but I think if those guys are healthy. But this is just a more fun team to watch, right? I mean, I'd rather have John Wall at the point than watching A.J. Price, even though he did do an all right job.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's been, I mean, in our previous podcast, we were just negative to all hell on this team. And
just think how much has changed in the month since we've done
exactly. And just thinking about how much we hate, I mean, I still don't like Randy Whitman. They've been playing great basketball these past few
weeks.
weeks.
They're saving his job. Randy Whitman's job.
I mean, not that that's a good thing necessarily, but I saw them play in Minnesota last Friday. And they won by 13 points, and there was never a question from the moment they tipped off that they were the better team and that they were going to win. And Minnesota was a team that was supposed to make the playoffs this year. I know they've had Kevin Love hurt, and Ricky Rubio hasn't been nearly as good. But they've been playing great basketball these past few weeks. They've been playing great defense. And obviously, John Wall is such a huge – it's amazing how huge of an impact he actually has on that team. And it's unfortunate that Brad Beal's got this wrist injury now. He might have to miss some time with that. But he opens up so many shots for everyone else. And he runs the fast break better than anyone in the league as far as I'm concerned. And his presence on that roster, or his presence in the lineup and in the rotation, is just, it's ridiculous how different of a team it is when he's out on the floor. And it's really encouraging. I think if he's been playing the whole season, I think they're at least 500 right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. I completely agree. I think, and also, I mean, you look at some of the teams that they've been beating. I mean, they beat OKC. They beat a good Atlanta team. They beat a Denver team. Portland. Yeah. Chicago. Minnesota. I mean, these are good basketball teams. These aren't easy wins by any stretch of imagination. And for the Wizards to get these wins, it gives you some encouragement and some hope. And again, for some reason, I guess some of us have kind of forgot about how good John Wall is. And I mean, I admit it. When not having him for a while, and with last year, he didn't necessarily have the greatest season in the world. It was more of a kind of thing like waiting for this guy to show some improvement, waiting for this guy to be the star, and we forgot about him over that time. I mean, not actually forgetting about him, but we kind of forgot what it's like to have John Wall on the court every single night. And now that he's back, and I think honestly he teamed up with Brad Beal when he gets that wrist figured out. That's one of the most formidable backcourt combos. You have Wall, who can penetrate, who can dish. You got Beal, who can knock down the three. John Wall is every shooting guard's dream to have on your team, because he's going to set you up for good shots. And Bradley Beal being only a rookie, John Wall being young as well, this could be the backcourt for the next couple seasons if Wall stays, of course. But I love this new look for the Wizards, and I think finally they're fun to watch. Finally, we get to not be so negative all the time.
Exactly, and they're 8th in the league right now in points allowed. They've been playing great defense, and having Wall on the perimeter. I mean, obviously Beal is a young guy as well, 19, and having Wall playing point guard and guarding the point guards for the other team is just so huge compared to having AJ Price and switching Crawford out there and some of the other guys. I know we had Pargo in there for a little bit earlier in the season.
Gennaro Pargo, Jesus, but.
Yeah, it's night and day. It's so fun. It's so much fun to watch this team now, and it's really encouraging to have him back. I mean, he's just starting his first game last Friday, and he's been getting regular minutes now. It's just great to have him back.
Oh yeah. All right, let's finish things up now. And again, we're going to be talking plenty more stuff on the blog. Of course, we're going to be trying to put out some content this week, and we'll get things going again. For those who have been checking us out, we're sorry for the delay, but again, life happens, things happen. But we're going to get right back on track, and we're going to keep bringing you. We got some a new format on there. It's going to be pretty fun to watch and listen to, as we're going to get this video up later as well and read. We got everything pretty much on the site now, so we look forward to that. And if you do, again, have anything you want us to talk about the show, you want to talk about anything that we talked about on the show, shoot us an email, leave us a comment on one of the stories or on the front page. But any final thoughts here, Matt, before we wrap things up? Again, Super Bowl Sunday. What's your dish? What's your go-to meal on Super Bowl Sunday?
I'm making a lot of crab, man. I'm thinking about making some crab dip, maybe some queso. Mom's making jambalaya for some New Orleans flavor.
Oh,
It's got a lot.